Hi, everyone. I'm Pastor Nathan at First Baptist Claxton, and I wanted to thank you for joining us as we continue to worship just on an online platform for now. The coronavirus has suspended public gatherings and caused many of us to stay inside. We're looking to the news, to our leaders, and our Bible for direction and comfort. And because I'm only qualified to speak about the latter, that's where I'll begin today. So as we turn to our Bibles for strength and hope, personally, I've been reading John chapter 6, and it has become sort of like a mirror for this strange time that we are in today. In John chapter 6, it begins with Jesus taking 5 loaves and 2 fish and multiplying it to feed a crowd of at least 5,000 people. After this, the Bible tells us that Jesus goes to the other side of the lake, and the crowds follow. Now, the members of this crowd, they would have been everyday people like you and me. People with jobs and businesses, people with kids who needed daycares. And they paused their busy lives to sit, listen, and be nourished and sustained by Jesus. The people in this crowd were everyday people, like I said, people like you and me. And like us, they were living in a strange and uncertain time. Where we have the coronavirus locking us down, in their world, they had the Romans instilling rules, laws, and restrictions that restricted their daily living as well. And the Romans were known for violence. The Romans were known for taking what they wanted and killing anybody who got in the way. It's estimated that at least 80% of one's income was taken by the Romans due to their high taxes. It was a strange and uncertain time indeed. The people followed Jesus were the same people that were afraid and scared of these Romans. Living in uncertain times, they didn't know where their next meal would come from or how dangerous the next day would be. Their world was a lot like ours, constantly changing and developing. Now, because of this virus, many of you woke up to a new job. Some of you became homeschool teachers overnight with no qualifications. Others of us woke up to being told that our job was no longer there, to not come in for the safety of others. As schools, churches, and even businesses suspend opening, there is so much confusion in the air. We are all living in a strange time, and people are asking all sorts of questions. How long will this last? Will we be okay? Will we be prepared for the virus if it comes into our town? Do you have enough toilet paper, soap, money? And it's during times of confusion and lostness that Jesus says to those who are listening, "Let me sustain you." And Jesus sustains us in a couple of ways. If you read John 6, you will notice Jesus doesn't just make all of the problems disappear. Jesus doesn't just make the Romans vanish, and he may not make this virus vanish overnight either. Jesus often doesn't make our problems disappear overnight. Instead, he walks with us through those problems. Instead, he says, "Let my words and my life guide you." Jesus gives us an identity that the coronavirus, death, and Romans cannot take away. Jesus gives us a victory over the forces of death, over the forces of evil, and over the forces of hatred. Where Jesus differs from all of those in the media that are shouting and telling us things is, at the best, the media and the press can inform us of a hard time, can let us know how strange and uncertain and scary this time is. But Jesus, on the other hand, it's only Jesus who can actually nourish us through the hard times. It's only Jesus that can remind us not to lose hope in the faces of fear and the forces of death. Jesus gives us a confidence in waking up, knowing that he is with us, knowing that he will sustain us in our living and even in our death. Going back to John chapter 6, after being fed and following Jesus across the other side of the lake, the questions begin to form in this crowd. Can we trust Jesus? Who is he? Is he somebody special? And in John chapter 6, verse 35, we come to our verse for today. Jesus answers them, it says, I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me will never go hungry, and whoever believes in me will never be thirsty. You and I are living in different times because of the coronavirus. We are watching the news more, checking our newspaper more, maybe calling our relatives more. The thing that I have noticed most about people during this time is they are looking for hope and encouragement more. People are hungry and thirsty for real, meaningful nourishment, not just news and facts. We've had our fill of news. We've filled up on fear. So now let's be nourished with hope. Sometimes people get their hope from the news. Sometimes people get their hope from a politician's words. But let me tell you that that is not sustainable. Hope that comes from the news and people is solely dependent upon what they say and what is being reported. So let me ask, where do you get your nourishment from? Your spiritual nourishment that tells you to look for hope in the face of death? Where do you get your nourishment that speaks to truth in the face of darkness? God offers us a hope and a future that cannot be distorted or changed because of a virus. If your hope and joy rise with what you are taking from the internet or the news, then I encourage you to focus on Jesus and his words and his life and the hope that he offers. And may you find yourself not filled up on fear, but truly and deeply nourished. See, Jesus offers us the best hope. He's the good shepherd, seeing us through all of life's peaks and tribulations. He tells us every day that we are loved and looked after, no matter how uncertain the rest of the world may seem. So if you are nourishing yourself with the news, I encourage you to also nourish yourself with the words of Jesus. Amen.